Chris in New York, thanks for waiting. You're on with Matt and John.
Oh, I've been trying to get on with you guys for months. I love the show, and
glad you
guys have really helped me out, and I wanted to share the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and it was an expansion on one of your favorite topics, Matt, and that's original sin and how abhorrent it is.
Yeah.
And when I really thought about it, and I haven't heard it discussed on the show or really found anyone else mention it, but there's actually a comparable real-world example that exists today, and that's with North Korea. They have something called a 3-generation punishment. Mm-hmm. And essentially, there's certain crimes, I think they said it's mostly political, where you and your entire family will be put into a work camp, and then while in immediate family, then while in the work camp, if you have any kids, the next 2 generations of kids are also forced to serve a life in that work camp. It's not until the 4th generation that they'll actually be released. And that's something with, I think, could be argued is infinitely more moral than the concept of original sin, because with original sin, Adam and Eve, I would say, could be argued that they didn't know eating the apple was wrong because they didn't know about good and evil until they ate the apple. Then there's, I know you like to go and say infinite punishment for a finite crime. In North Korea, it's a finite punishment because it only lasts until you die. And I'm guessing in the work camps, it's probably not that long.
The Bible has portions where multiple generations are going to be punished, and then there's the caste system in a number. So you're basically born into this tier, and all the notions of karma, all of this karma, original sin, all this, the caste system. These are all immoral and repugnant, because if they are not true, then we have managed to convince perhaps billions of people to buy into something that makes them de facto inferior to other people in society. And if it is true, then there's a moral thug of a deity that is doing it intentionally. So both situations, whether it's true or a lie, it's still immoral.
Well, for me, I feel that it's just not, I couldn't see any moral or just God doing that. And I think looking, with North Korea's 3-generation punishment, I would hope that most civilized and morally good people would go and say that's an absolute human rights violation to punish, 2 generations of family, even immediate family members.
Except the North Koreans don't think so. See, this is the thing. No, I would love to think that most people would recognize this too, and certainly most people in the West would probably recognize that they wouldn't want their 2, 3, 4 generations down to be punished for what they did. People fundamentally get it, and yet there's still an entire civilization that's using a caste system, and North Korea has managed to convince its citizens of this. And it doesn't matter. We have to teach the people who are doing it wrong, not just go on the. I think anybody should be able to look at this and see it's obvious, because I think anybody should be able to look at what the Bible says about slavery and see that it's obviously more immoral. I think anybody should be able to look at the evidence for the existence of God and reach the conclusion that there's not sufficient evidence to warrant belief. But despite the fact that I feel that way, I used to believe, and so I have to understand that it's going to take work. And, it's going to be harder in places like North Korea where, it's not like I can walk over to North Korea and start proselytizing about how they're being immoral.
I think you're right, though, Chris, that there's a disconnect, because a lot of people in the West would agree that the North Korea system is wrong, and yet they don't have any problem with the concept of original sin. So there's a disconnect there.
That was more the point that I was trying to bring up.
Yeah, that they don't see that as being the same thing. And it boils back down to, if God does it, it must be good, or it must be okay. He gets the get out of jail free card.
Yeah. As soon as you define something as morally correct, it's like when people say God wrote his moral code on your heart. And I say, how do you tell the difference between, how do you know that God's the good one and Satan's the evil one? Oh, well, God just has to be good. Well, that's just an assertion. Well, God wrote his moral code on your heart. Well, assuming that was even true, If I wrote my moral code on your heart, I would come out as a shining, perfect example of my moral code. Doesn't mean that my moral code's correct. If Satan wrote his moral code on your heart, or basically, let's put this in better language, if Satan convinced you that he is absolutely morally perfect, then you're going to conclude that he's absolutely morally perfect. Doesn't mean he is.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
But all right, I appreciate the call, though. Thanks, Chris.
Really quickly, I wanted to ask a quick question. How's your book coming along? Because I'm actually going to be seeing you on Thursday.
It's not. You're going to be seeing me when?
This Thursday? Aren't you doing the debate with D'Souza?
No.
So here's the thing. My apologies to you and to everybody else. I have to make this announcement thing. The book's on hold because of 25 reasons right now.
Life.
Health, marriage, finances, blah, blah, blah. My future events with Pangburn Philosophy have all been canceled, as has every Pangburn event. So the debate with Dinesh D'Souza is canceled. Or it's not going to happen on the 29th. I haven't spoken to Dinesh personally, but there's been a little back and forth, and he wants to do it. I'd like to do it. Maybe this event will happen through some other promoter, some other time. Also, my event with Steven Pinker, December 6th in New York City, that has also been canceled, as was the Day of Reflection conference that was supposed to be last weekend. That's been canceled. Pangburn Philosophy has gone bankrupt. I am not involved in the business side of this, so I don't have any information on refunds. All I can say is that while there are people going after Pangburn and saying, oh, this guy's a big scammer and everything else, I don't think that's the case. I think he made some bad business decisions and tried desperately to dig himself out of a hole and just made bad decisions that resulted in him being even more in the hole. But I'm not privy to his finances or anything else. Pangburn Philosophy's gone under. I'm going to be booking my own events. I'll be working with a couple friends of mine, including Seth Andrews, to try and get events out to people and working with other organizations. But yeah, sorry that you hadn't heard. But the event with Dinesh this Thursday is not happening.
I'll crap on both of them because I was really looking forward to your book. Because I definitely, I love all of the people on the show, but I think I more identify with your mode of arguments. I love the one quote you made. People think you're an arrogant, condescending asshole, and they're not wrong.
Right.
But I was really hoping to see you. So I guess I'll just have to make a trip down to Texas. But
yep.
All right, that's all I had. So thanks so much for your time. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.